Hi, I'm Liz from Caravan Guard Insurance. Adding an awning to a caravan is a great way to expand your living area, either as an extra living room, temporary storage or as extra sleeping space. And at Caravan Guard we recognise that a caravan awning is a great accessory but can also be a sizable investment. So in this video we're going to go through how to add an awning to your caravan, some things to check on during your holiday, how to pack it away and some top tips for getting the most out of your caravan awning, as well as protecting it from damage. Our caravan insurance policy provides cover for your caravan and awning if damaged by bad weather. We're joined by Nathan from awning manufacturer Isabella, and we've pitched up here at Somerswood Caravan Park. So let's get started. Once your caravan is set up, the last task is to put up the awning. We're set up on a hard standing pitch, and our first task is to lay some tarp on the floor, and this protects our awning from abrasion, mud or dirt from the pitch surface. We also temporarily peg this out so it doesn't fly away. Next we apply some lubricant to the awning rail, and this makes feeding the awning in much easier. Then unpack it close to the awning rail of the caravan. Feeding the awning into the rail can be tricky on your own, but with two people, with one pushing and one pulling the awning, it will make it much easier. Air awnings can be heavy, so a top tip is to remove some of the panels to make the awning lighter. Once the awning is in position, close all the valves and detach the pump. Take your time when inflating the awning. On a hot day like today, there's no need to rush, and even consider taking a small break. This pump has a dual action setting, making it easier to get the last bit of air into the awning. If you have removed any panels, zip them back in when the awning is partially inflated. This will make it easier when the awning is fully set up. Today we're inflating the awning to 7 psi. Now the awning is inflated, it's time to start pegging it out. To begin, lay the pegs you will need around the awning so you know you have enough. Then start with the pegging point under the caravan at the back. Peg and detach the awning, then move into the rear corner of the awning, pull it out so the side is nice and taut, and peg this corner. Move to the front of the caravan and repeat the process. Once all corners are pegged, the awning should be nice and taut. If not, re-peg until the sides are straight. Now it's time to fill in all the pegging points. As we're on a hard standing pitch, we're using rock pegs. It's really important to use the right pegs for the type of ground the awning is being pitched onto for a nice secure setup. Where panels meet the sides, cross the pegging points to apply more strength to the awning. And where doors are to be used, angle the peg towards the door opening, again to apply more strength. And that's it. Now it's just a case of adding the guy lines, any storm straps for bad weather, attaching the inner curtains, laying some flooring and having a well-deserved drink. So there you go, that's the awning all set up. Now let's talk to Nathan for his top tips on getting the most out of your caravan awning.
So my first top tip when setting up a caravan awning is to initially use a ground sheet or a tarpaulin. Lay that down first where you're going to be setting up the caravan awning. This will help to, when you unpack the awning, to keep it dry, not getting any mud on it whilst you're trying to get it into the rail. This ground sheet could actually be used afterwards as well. If you're on a hard standing pitch, you could keep that inside, add another carpet on top, and what that does, it will stop the moisture getting through. The only problem with a ground sheet or a tarpaulin, if you're putting onto a grass pitch, you would need to check the guidelines of the campsite, because a lot of the time they won't like you to use a non-breathable ground sheet because it can kill the grass, so then you would have to use the carpet directly onto the grass. The next step in the process of setting up the awning is to get it out of the bag. What I will always say, a little tip beforehand, is just to lubricate the rail. Just makes it a lot easier to slide through, and usually a lot of the time the lubricants can be used on the awning for a sticky zip or anything like that. It won't cause any damage to the awning, but that's one of the top tips I'll give on the start of the setup. A good idea when setting up the awning or feeding the awning through is, depending on which awning you've got, whether it's a porch awning, an air awning, or even a full awning, removing some of the panels can just reduce the weight of when you're trying to feed and drag the awning into the rail. As well as that, if you are using maybe a porch awning, you don't have to go from the bottom opening of the rail. You could maybe start a bit further up at the front or the rear, because you haven't got to fit it all the way around to the rail. So little tips like that just make getting the canvas into position a lot easier. As we all know, setting up an awning can be quite stressful. You've just had a long journey to your campsite, you might have the kids running around wanting to go to the park, but it's just taking your time and making sure you get it set up correctly. And that could be even waiting a couple of hours, get the van in position, have a tea, then start hitting the awning as the day moves on. So once you've slid the awning into the rail, you've got it into position where you like. If it's a slightly windier day, I may loosely peg the four corners out on the awning before pumping it up. If it's an okay sunny day, I wouldn't worry. Then you would pump up, and it depends on which awning you've got, which manufacturer. A lot of them now are single inflation, so you pump up from one, but I will always initially check all the valves that you've got on the awning. One, to check that they have got no dirt on it, because occasionally if you're putting up an awning up and down, occasionally some dirt can get behind the valve, which will then slowly release air. So I'll always check those very quickly. Then we'll be tightening the valves that need to be tightened and leaving one open where you're going to inflate from. And another little tip I'll give whilst you are pumping the awning up, if you have taken any panels out, get a bit of air, partially inflate it, then zip your panels back in before you add too much more pressure to it. And then finally, when you're ready to go, add the remaining pressure to the tubes. During your holiday, it's important to just keep an eye on the awning. You obviously do that initial setup, but as the days go on, the awning can move if it's windy, so some of the pegs may come loose. So it's just important to keep an eye on those, making sure they're still solid. Your guy ropes or your storm straps, if you've added those onto them, just making sure they're nice and tight and taut. And what I'll always say is, whether you're setting up the awning in lovely conditions, or even if you've been there for a week and it's still really nice weather, if you are going out for the day, I would always say it's important to keep an eye on the weather and maybe add guy ropes or storm straps, or making sure it's extra nice and tight, because you never know what weather is around the corner. As we're talking about weather, and especially in hot weather, with an air awning, it's important to keep an eye on the pressure that you put in. So we always advise to go by the manufacturer's guidelines with the amount you put in to get it to the required PSI. However, if it's really hot, you're sort of looking at mid to late 30s, we would advise dropping it down 2 or 3 PSI, just to give the air tubes a bit more room to expand in the heat. Not only that, even during the season, it can be different as well. So at the start of a season and at the end of the season, where you might be getting warm days and cooler nights, that temperature change can have an effect on the pressure fluctuating inside the air tubes. So it may be that you might just need to top up the air tubes to get it back to the required pressure. There is a common misconception that air awnings can explode, but most of the time it's never going to happen. The reason that may potentially happen is, essentially, there is a bladder inside a sleeve which is zipped shut, usually with a cable tie. So what can happen, for whatever reason, if it's had a bit of damage, that cable tie can become broken, and when you pump up the awning, you're then increasing that bladder size, and it's just going to slightly undo that zip very gradually and burst out. That is the main reason why an air awning will explode. A few tips I'll give when taking an air awning down. One of them is a personal preference. Some people would like to take the panels out for when they're packing it away to make it lighter, and then equally it's ready if they're going to be sliding it in on their next visit, that the panels aren't in. But also as well, with an air awning, a little tip I will give is, if the weather's suitable, is to let the air out of the valves, then go around and unpeg the awning. This just gives the air time to release, so then when you are ready to fold the awning up, you'll roll towards the valves just to get the last little bit of air out, but a lot of it has already been done whilst you're spending the time unpegging it. So once the awning's down and it's on the tarp and you're ready to go, if you have kept the panels in, it's ensuring that the roof is on the floor and you fold the panels on the inside. Not as crucial if you've taken the panels out, but you'll still fold it onto its roof. I will always have the bag there with me, so you can, when you're folding the awning, you have got the dimensions that you require. And then finally roll towards the valves just to get the last little bit of air out and pop it into the bag.
So there you go, we hope you found this video useful. If you have arrived on site after a long tour, you could consider delaying putting up your awning until you're well rested or if the weather is more favourable. And remember to always take down your awning if stormy weather is forecast to prevent damage to both your awning and your caravan and even its contents. It's also a good idea to check on the air pressure in the tubes of an air awning throughout your holiday and the pegging points of either a poled or an air awning to make sure it remains secure. For more caravanning hints and tips and for more information about our caravan insurance, head on over to the Caravan Guard website. Thanks for watching.